This podcast has been brought to you by SeekersGuidance, the global Islamic seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at SeekersGuidance.org/donate. For as little as $10 a month, you can help people find life-changing guidance.
I've been involved with other haram relationships, fornication and other things, a'udhu billah, and now I'm getting married. And what should I do about my past? There's a lot of these kind of questions that are always constantly asked. Look, whether you're a sister that have committed fornication or whether you're a brother that have committed fornication, walayadha billah, repenting from sins and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and after doing that, you should have a good opinion that Allah ta'ala accepted your tawbah. You should never mention that sin to anyone, including a prospect, someone you're going to get married with. They don't need to hear your baggage, your previous problems. It's just going to harm the relationship. If you made tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say tawbah is to forget the sin. Completely leave it behind you, right? At-ta'ibu min ad-dhanb, as we said, is like the one who never did it. And one of the most amazing things in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that on the day of judgment, we have the Lawh al-Mahfuz, where the qalam wrote everything that is and will be until the day of judgment on this tablet that Allah ta'ala created, and the pen being the first. But then we also have our book of good deeds and bad deeds. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge you by the books of your two shoulders that the angels record, instead of what is on the Lawh al-Mahfuz, which is with His knowledge. Which means that this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Editing our life, select, delete, and remove. All of that is possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that you've been in a haram relationship, which is honestly and alarmingly, most people don't talk about this, but honestly, this is a major, major problem. And we don't want to expose the sins of the people, but at the same time, we want to highlight that these are very real cases. I was at a youth camp speaking about taqwa and what that means, and mentioning the words of Imam and Nawawi and others. And a dear friend of mine, Imam Jihad Safir, he came to me, he said, look, this is good what you're mentioning, but honestly, you're way off the mark. And I said, well, why do you say that? He said, this is not what people need. People are not at that state. People need real help. They're in haram relationships and this and that. And he told me a lot of things that was at first for me, honestly, a little hard to believe. Until later on in the camp, all the kind of questions that started coming about were all around that. The amount of people that are involved in haram relationships are alarming numbers. There's a lot of factors to that. Yes, you're going off to college, you're in environments that are very seductive, attractive, you're in fitna, you're in haram gatherings, etc. All of that makes a very big cause for the slip. You're not around righteous people, you're not around the masajid, you're not around anybody that reminds you. So little by little you deteriorate, and then you meet someone that you study with, you're alone with, which is haram. And that's why the Sharia is there to protect individuals from those relationships. If you can avoid always being alone with anybody, that's a must, because otherwise you may slip into sin, and most likely you probably will. As two people that are alone in an enclosed environment, such as what is referred to as khalwa, two people that are non-mahram, like opposite genders, etc., shaitan is their third. So you always want to avoid that situation. Becoming just casual friends with the opposite gender is a problem, because one thing leads to another, and then emotions come in, etc., and then it leads to something else. These are real problems. So, but going back to the question of, you made tawbah, you've changed your life, hopefully it wasn't like, you made tawbah 3 days ago, now you're ready to get married, hopefully you have a bit of a track record that you can stay away from those type of things, because sins impact the heart quite a bit, and sometimes it takes time to truly recover from that type of environment. But if you made tawbah, you're ready now to commit yourself to somebody, and you want to do that, then bismillah, don't look back. have a good opinion of your Lord that Allah Ta'ala forgave you, and don't look back. And you don't need to inform your spouse about any of those things. The past is the past, leave it in the past and move forward. Otherwise, what you did will just harm your relationship. What he did is only going to harm your relationship. And no human being is perfect. All human beings have some type of, baggage that they carry, sins that they carry. But spouses, one of the jobs of a husband and wife is to remind one another, to strengthen one another, to support one another. This is really what it's all about. Marriage is about protecting one another. Antum libasun lahun wa hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahun. They are a clothing for you and you are a clothing for them. It's to help one another, protect one another, to help with the needs, whether they're intimate needs or many needs. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Allah Ta'ala says between spouses, He put between you love and mercy, sakina, right? And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for a spouse that wakes up the other for prayer, and when they don't get up, they sprinkle a little bit of water on them to get them up. It's about helping one another and improving one another, not being critical, not looking down on one another, not being extremely on the point of being judgmental and just picking on the past. The past, what happened in the past is the past. Move on, And so that's the advice that, inshallah, we give bi'idhnillah, and hope and pray that Allah Ta'ala put barakah in that answer and that many, inshallah, are able to apply that.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seekers Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit SeekersGuidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit SeekersGuidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.